Well, g'day. Welcome to vlog day number 6 for the Gandel Vashem program. This is a Saturday morning. I had a Shabbat service which went quite late, so I thought I'll get some sleep rather than producing an incoherent mess of a word salad trying to describe the day at the end of it. So the first lecture started with Nazi ideology. So basically we're looking at this idea of, we think of Nazism as fascism, but how was it different and how did it come to be? So first of all, Nazi ideology was a form of fascism, which basically was a reaction to Bolshevism in the East and to liberal capitalism in the West. So it was this mix of politically relatively fascist, but with a racist bent to it, which separated it from normal fascism. Economically speaking, it was a mix of public and private ownership. They didn't want people profiting from the war, for example. That was one of their central kind of tenets or policies. They wanted the state to control the means of production, but they also wanted private property. So it was this weird mix. I think national syndicalism was the idea. Google it. So economically speaking, politically speaking, but also there was this idea of what would you call it? This irrational kind of emotional aspect to Nazi ideology. This idea that people are to go with their gut almost, and this brings the question into being. Well, this is Germany. How is it that Germany, which is such a beacon of culture and civilization, and towering lights of in multiple fields, how is it that these very intellectual people fall for this idea? And that was one of the key questions. And the answer was found in multiple ways. Two that stood out to me was it was in reaction to Napoleon Bonaparte. So coming and just taking over the country so easily. There was this kind of cultural despair where people were asking questions saying, how was this possible? And trying to work out the reason. Actually, another one was this Volkish spirit, Volk, the people. It was this kind of desire for earthly, getting back to nature type spirit, the Volk. So that was another one. The last one was Friedrich Nietzsche and his 3 metamorphoses. How should the spirit become a camel, like a beast of burden, of strength? Should become a lion, an idea of royalty? And eventually, how shall a lion become a child? So a thing of innocence and a thing of possibility. So quite deep, and a lot of people enjoyed it. I'm not going to try and describe it in a vlog. You will be here for hours, and at the end of it you will know less than what you did when you started. So following that, we looked at the persecution of German Jews from 1933 to 1943. One of the things I took away from this lecture was the central kind of running theme throughout all of this persecution, which was humiliation. The Nazis from the start right up to the final solution and the last day of the war, it was about humiliation of the Jews. And one of the policies, so the final solution didn't come until mid or end 1941. So it was basically a year and a half of the final solution, and therefore there was 8.5 years of their rule, which wasn't the final solution. They were not. The official policy was not murdering Jews. It was emigration. It was get out of Germany. And so for 8.5 years, humiliation was used to try and force them to say we need to get out of here. And that was done in multiple ways. Obviously, sacking anyone who was Jewish in the government, trying to force businesses to get rid of Jews, and eventually this idea of Aryanization occurred. When not enough Jews were leaving, they stepped up and the policies became more harsh, and the policies tried to to ensure that Jews left. So this began with this policy where Jewish businesses would be forcibly sold, basically stolen, by German people who were well connected enough. Literally what would happen was, if you were well connected in the government, you would literally just write a letter saying, you know that Jewish business down the road, I'd like it. And there would be a nominal fee, which didn't always have to be paid. And basically, the Jewish businessman who owned the business had to literally just give it up. The government would say, it's now this person's business. And so they'd have these kind of ceremonies where you'd come at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there'd be champagne, and there'd be a transferal of ownership from the Jewish actual owner of the business to this random person, often somebody who worked at the business. The window cleaner would then become the owner of the business, and the Jewish man would be at the mercy, either just leave or at the mercy of someone who used to clean his windows. And 80 to 82% of all businesses that transferred ownership at that time are still in the hands of those people, or the sons and grandsons and etc. and daughters of those people. So this convinced some more to leave. And then finally, they stepped it up once more again with pogroms, which were seen finally, a pogrom was kind of going in and beating people up and burning property, etc., and killing if needed. And that was Kristallnacht. So they used the excuse of they deported some Germans to an area in Poland. It was freezing. They were given 15 minutes to leave, and the sister of a boy who was a Jewish boy who was in France wrote a letter saying this is how we were treated and we're suffering so badly. He got this letter from his sister and he was not happy, and he went and bought a gun. He went to the German consulate in Paris in France, and he shot basically the first person he saw. Ironically, someone who was anti-Nazism, but that death, which may or may have not been kind of helped along by Nazis' personal by Hitler's personal doctor who was sent to see to him, this was seen as the excuse for the pogrom, and people rose up, and synagogues were burned throughout every major city, and people were murdered. Jewish people were murdered. Possessions were taken. Looting occurred. Kristallnacht. You can look it up. This was one of the final pogroms that kind of sent the last few people who were going to leave out of the country. Roughly 56% of German Jews left between 33 and 39. Almost all of them were young. They had difficulty finding places to go. A lot of countries, Australia, shut their doors and said, you guys have a race problem over there, we don't want that race problem here. So Australia literally said, we don't want that issue, we don't want your refugees. So at the start, the government encouraged Jews to leave. There were financial benefits, and as time went on, the amount that they received dwindled to the point where they were leaving everything if they were going at the end behind. So those who were left behind basically was signed a death sentence. They didn't know it, but once the war started, everyone who was Jewish in Germany was to be murdered. Found out that roughly 5,000 in Germany, Jews, were saved by righteous among the nations that hid them largely in apartments. So they survived till the end of the war. So that was the persecution of German Jews in Germany. And then obviously until 41 we see the final solution.